This is great for an audio medium. I assure you, the picture we're looking at is hilarious.
Would you let any of these dudes into your house?
No.
It looks like they're like...
The one on the top right looks like a younger Al Bundy.
He does.
He kind of looks like a young Al Bundy. If anyone wants to know what we're looking at...
it's Rockapella from Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah, it's the a cappella band named Rockapella from Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego. If you recall, the host always he loved to throw to them. He was like, "Take it, Rockapella!" Like he was all really happy to let them sing the same fucking song over and over and over. Oh my god! Ad nauseum.
My face hurts.
Those were similar. Those were simple times.
All of those guys look like they're gonna steal your dog and skin it.
Well, they definitely. Especially the guy on the top.
Wait a second. The last picture you showed us had 2 black men.
Yeah,
in
what happened to them?
And this is 5 white men.
Where did the black members of this band go?
All I want to know is which way it went.
Oh yeah.
Were there 5 white guys and they were like, "You need."
I think
you cannot have.
I think they added the.
It looks like a KKK meeting. You cannot have 5 that creepy looking white dudes. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Every Wednesday night from 6 to 9.
Where in the world is all our burning crosses? Yeah. Anyway, Rockapella was a bunch of fucking racists. You heard it here first.
Yep.
God, I hope they're not listeners.
I think they are.
They're a bunch of racists. Fuck them.
Yeah, that's true. They're racist. Fuck them. This is Reno Dino Valentino, and we are 2 minutes in to top 3 anything. We haven't done it in a while, but man, we still got it. Not rusty at all.
No.
I don't think we ever had it, and that's why it's exactly the same as last time, personally.
You are
anyway.
A constant disappointment. You make me so sad. I'm trying to feel good about the things we're doing here.
Man, well, you shouldn't invite people to think of you as family then.
That's true.
Because I'm going to tear you down.
When you're here, you're family. Here be in my bedroom. Sorry, ladies. When you're here, I can't have sex with you because you're suddenly my sister and it's weird.
It's gross.
Get the fuck out of my house. What are you even doing here?
Stop telling me how to live my life.
So, today's episode, Top 3 Anything, at almost 3 minutes.
Perfect.
I'm going to be doing timestamps through the whole thing to show how
inept
we are at staying on topic.
That means that if we ever want to edit it, it'll be like, it sounds really great. You'll be like, we're 15 and a half minutes in now. And they'll be like, wait, we've only listened to a minute of this. Yeah.
They'll know.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Well, I'll leave this part in, and that'll take care of all that.
Should I talk about how I just spilled tea all over my lap?
Yeah, some honest tea. All over. What is happening?
I don't know.
Oh, I just needed my phone.
You can just say it. You're too quiet for the mic to pick you up anyway, dude.
It's true. You can just.
You just talk.
You don't have to say. The problem. You guys think Levi is quiet. He's not. He just half of the podcast Levi does in sign language.
Yeah. It's that, and I'm too scared to speak.
Yeah.
These 2 are intimidating.
So I believe. yeah. Look at us.
They can't. It's a podcast, Rito.
Anyway, yes.
So I think this is my episode. Again, it's been a long time, but it's top 3 episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Which
not just going to be the movie 3 times.
Which had to be called The Last Airbender because James Cameron pitched a fucking fit, apparently.
Is that true?
That would make
sense.
I
read a little blip on it, and I can't cite it, so I don't know how true it is, but it wasn't just like a fucking tweet that somebody thought was funny.
Believe it because I don't like James Cameron.
Well, as soon as they pitched the show, he made sand people noise. Ooh, Cameron!
Oh my god, I almost blew tea out of my nose. I gotta quit drinking.
I thought he just immediately started calling people up and like, do you have tall Smurfs in it? You better not have tall Smurfs in it. I'm going to be so mad if there's tall Smurfs in this movie.
You know his second movie's called The Way of the Water?
Oh, fuck him.
It's like, how can you fucking, it's Avatar Way of the Water. It's like, could you, maybe you should stop naming your shit after this Nickelodeon show.
Or
maybe that's what
or
you
just
do.
Name it directly on what you ripped off. Like, episode 1 could be Avatar Pocahontas, and episode 2 could be Avatar. Just tell us what you're stealing and save us the trouble of going to see the movie. Jeez. Which I'm sure will be very pretty and horribly written. If it's anything like the first one.
Of course.
I thought the first one was a beautiful movie that I could not stand to listen to.
So here's what you do. You just do what I do. Get yourself some good earplugs. Get some popcorn. Go to the movie. Don't listen to it.
I would put in my Raycons and just listen to Final Fantasy music
And watch the pictures.
while watching it. Actually, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But then I wouldn't understand why they're searching so hard for the element unobtainium.
Then you wouldn't be able to know.
That's how me hit myself with my notes because unobtainium is in the fucking movie. I swear it is.
Jeez.
Just kill me now.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say then you wouldn't be able to figure out how to paint with all the colors of the wind. Because I'm pretty sure.
That is also probably in the movie. Spoiler, the secret is attaching a plant tube into the back of your neck.
Oh, well, I knew it had something to do with your orifices. But I wasn't
And
sure.
sticking things in them.
Yeah, and sticking things in them. Which
Yes.
is direct ripoff of the Disney Pocahontas movie because
And also this
all
fourth
she-
Alien movie.
all she did the whole time was be like, I don't know, maybe I should marry the white guy. Maybe I should marry the guy with the same skin color as me. I don't know why she sounds
You
like...
nailed the accent.
And then you have
I don't know.
Then you
I
have
could tell Alex is 1/400th Native
The
American.
only thing from that movie that made sense, though, is the chick.
As all white people are, let's
I was
be
gonna
honest.
say, yeah, because they very much gave her a Native American accent in the Pocahontas Disney movie.
Well,
They
the only
didn't.
thing that
I don't
made
think they
sense
gave
of
her
that-
any
The
accent.
only,
They
thing,
didn't.
Talk like a robot.
No.
the only thing that made sense of that was the chief coming out going, "These white men are dangerous." That's about all I got from that.
I feel like the movie should have been 2 minutes long of him coming out and saying that and then be like, well, fuck him. And just leaving.
No.
If our podcast has a mantra, it's, well, fuck them.
Fuck them.
To our audience, to the Avatar people, just all of them.
Even ourselves.
Yes.
So anyway,
I thought this cartoon was great, and that's why I suggested this episode.
Yeah.
you don't remember why you suggested it was too long ago. So who's everybody's number 3?
Well, my number one's usually pee. My number 2 is poop. Number 3, I guess, is when you sit on the toilet and do
No,
both.
no.
Yeah.
That's whenever you attach something to the orifice in the back of your head.
To see all the
so
colors
you
of the
can
wind.
see all the colors of the wind. Fucking duh, Reno.
Oh,
God.
also,
How high can the sycamore grow? If you stick this in your ear, then you might know. I'm
Is
pretty
this-
sure
is
that's
this-
one of the
know a
songs.
lot of that song
It-
compared to me. I mean. What was that?
is this before or after the tree rape scene, or am I thinking of Evil Dead again?
Oh no, that tree rape scene.
Let me
was
check my
stolen
notes.
by Pocahontas.
Gotcha. I knew it.
It was made into a G-rated thing,
Okay.
but yeah, there was.
Oh, the tree courted at first, and
Yeah.
then okay.
Unbeknownst, all Native Americans were basically poison ivy, and they could control plants and use them to attack the English
I'm so glad
people.
they meant poison ivy from the DC comic and not like all Native American people were poison ivy. Anyway, moving on. Like what? What is wrong with you?
What? I have a natural allergy to them.
Oh my god.
I gotta wash them out of my clothes like 8 times. Like, what are you? That's terrible.
I think one of us should go ahead and say our top. Our
This
number
is
three.
why we have an edit button, Levi. I'm not going to use it, but we do have it. My number 3 is library.
It's a good
there.
one.
Oh, thank
Fantastic.
you.
I don't know anything about this.
I'm
It
getting
may
ready
not
to
exist
explain.
in the show.
So, in this episode, all of the main characters from our pilgrimage cast, Katara, Aang, they're all Toph. They all pick like little vacations. Like they're all like taking a day off. And
Stick
Sokka,
orifice
Saki,
thing
Saki.
back in your-
Good old Saki.
the Japanese rice wine character, who is Katara's brother. He decides he wants to go to the library because he realizes that there's a day of black sun that was like a horrible day for the Fire Nation, and it's supposed to be coming around again. And he's like, well, there's this rumor, this great library in the desert where we can get
Oh, yeah.
answers to
Now
these
I
questions.
remember it.
Yeah. So they get this guide who's just this adorable character, and I think he's a very good example of how good Avatar show was at just taking these little one-off characters and making them just super great and memorable. Like, if you remember the episode where Toph is wrestling, she's using her earthbending to wrestle, and all of them are like weird.
wrestlers.
Yeah, there's like an armadillo guy and like a Macho Man parody, and like all these like that were so cool. They got brought back way later to like fight battles and stuff. But I really like Avatar's way of making memorable characters that didn't have to be.
Right.
This guy could have been fucking anybody. He's just a dude to get them to the library. But they decided to give him like this overbearing, like knowledge-seeking personality. I also really like the episode because Toph is in top form as the comedic relief. And Sokka actually is in top form as the strategist that he will eventually become. Because kind of, and I don't know if the writers planned it this way or if it was just kind of the way things rolled, but at the beginning Sokka was your comic relief, and he keeps telling jokes through the whole thing. But once Toph gets on board, Toph kind of overtakes that in some ways.
Takes a bit of the burden off.
Yeah, it takes some of the burden of comedy off because everyone else is so fucking serious, as we'll know from one of your episodes. So Sokka actually gets to show his general chops and his... I'm not just a...
General, like someone who leads an army, not like just his chops in general.
He's very good at being average at things.
This guy is tops at generaling.
He's
very
very good
average general man. He's got some pretty...
Even the things he considers himself talented at, like boomeranging and swordplay. He is average at best.
Average. Just right down the middle.
So... in addition to that, the library also has one of my favorite spirits, which is the great owl spirit that guards the library.
Who?
There's this big owl. Big owl!
Who?
He's like a big owl.
Who?
Alex.
Who?
Like a spirit. He's like a big owl. Why are you guys doing this? I don't understand. So he's like a big owl spirit, right?
Yeah, big owl spirit.
Yeah. And as you would expect a library guardian to be, like a representation of knowledge. So this episode just had a lot of the things I love about Avatar, all smushed into one episode. And also, much like Beauty and the Beast, if you put in a really awesome library, I'm going to like it despite myself.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was a tale as old as time. True as it can be. Sorry.
Oh, this
Alex,
might as well.
We're even friends, then somebody bends.
I think Big Disney has gotten to Alex.
This is about to
Big
become.
what? I'm sorry.
This is about to be
that
a musical.
big Disney energy. BDE.
This is just about to be a musical episode.
Alex has that BDE, that big Disney energy. Yeah, we are doing it. We're doing musicals from now on.
Don't worry,
Fuck
that's coming.
yeah.
That's coming soon.
Yeah, and it's and yeah, that's the owl is my favorite spirit. Except I don't know if either of you remember this character. There's this thing called the Face Stealer.
Yes.
Who shows up way later in the spirit realm.
Yes.
That's my favorite because it's evil and I like evil. But but my second favorite is this owl. And the owl's like, "You're not coming here to cause trouble, are you?" And they're like, "No, we're just here seeking knowledge." Yeah. So they find out, this is also where they find out about the eclipse, where all firebenders are going to lose their power. Right. And so they
For
plan
like 5 minutes.
Yeah, so they plan an assault during this eclipse.
We had to do this in 5 minutes, so
because, well, they had recently seen what a lunar eclipse did to waterbending powers, so they knew how strong it could be. So it's a lot of important stuff for the show, but it's also just, it's just a really good episode about everything that makes the show great. And the last thing I'll mention is right at the end, the tower starts to sink because the owl's really pissed off because he found out that they lied to him.
You liars!
And the owl turns into this super frightening spirit. Like, its neck gets really long and he grows horns. And he's fucking chasing them through the library.
Going,
and he's asking who they are, which is weird because he knows. They'd already introduced themselves. I'm very confused by that part. But the owl goes from super adorable to this terrifying monster. And I think it shows, like, how we don't understand the spirit world, and they're like Fae. They're different, and the way they think is different. The way they act is different.
So that scene, as I recall it, reminded me a lot of the owl scene from the original Watership Down. I think it was was, or no, I'm sorry, Rats of Nim. Rats of Nim. That was animated, and it was absolutely fucking terrifying.
Yeah,
like,
I remember
it was
that movie
super.
too.
Yeah, and like that, the owl in that was. It was.
It had like the long eyebrows.
Yeah, and it was
eyes.
super mysterious, and it was problematic, and it too like.
I super see why you
answered some questions, and then like was like, also I'm going to eat you because you're a yummy snack kind of thing, and all of that kind of. I don't think it was an homage, but it reflected that from like my childhood viewing
I get
stuff.
it.
Yeah,
I also get why you confuse it with Watership Down.
Yeah,
but that's a scary rabbit.
Yeah,
Scary
there's
rabbit.
lots of scary things in Watership Down.
So scary.
Like
so scary.
Like, why do I gotta have emotions like this?
Yeah,
I'm terrified.
I think top 3 terrifying cartoons might be a good topic at some point.
Terrifying
in the
cartoon movies.
I had a bunch that scared me as a kid, but I was a scared little kid at everything. So that might listen.
As an adult, nothing has changed.
Yeah,
Cartoons still care.
No, but I definitely have some that would be like, yeah, that was terrifying.
Facts. So last thing I'll mention is right at the end where the tower's sinking because the owl's pissed off. He's taking it back to the spirit realm. And it's also cute. The guy that went with him decides to stay and stay with the books, which I liked. But Toph's trying to hold it up. And while that happens, Appa gets kidnapped. And so Aang comes out and freaking Appa's gone. And Aang blames Toph and it's super heart-wrenching. And the show's ability to go from funny to serious and remain a children's cartoon or at least a young adult cartoon. I don't know. I don't think it's been done finer than Avatar did it, and that's why Library is my number 3. I'll stop talking about it now.
That is a good pick.
Yes, I know.
What's your number 3, Levi?
My number 3 was The Siege of the North Part 2.
God, both of you have terrible picks. No,
Oh, come on now.
God, it's like you didn't even watch the show.
I will say that one was a terrible pick. I don't even think there's a library in that episode.
I made up that whole episode on the spot.
It's not even from the show.
You idiots, just listen to me.
Stupid, it's from Greek mythology. I was just talking shit. I just changed character names.
Jesus.
Yeah. Anyway, tell us about that episode. Give us a brief synopsis, and then why you loves it so
All right.
much.
So this one's the one that kind of deals with the whole moon spirit, the yin and yang fish. I cannot remember.
So pretty.
Yeah.
In the little lake.
Yeah.
In the ice palace.
Yeah. So they're in what the North Water Tribe.
Yes.
So yeah, they go there, and part 2 basically kind of picks up where Aang's in the spirit world, and this is actually the one that brings up the face stealer.
Mm-hmm. I love the face stealer.
Yeah, so he was talking to Avatar, was it Roku?
Roku.
Yeah, and he was saying, yeah, you're gonna have to talk to the face stealer, but don't show any emotion because then he'll steal your fucking face. And then Aang's like, oh, okay.
And that's such a monk thing, isn't it?
It's also a very
so
hard
Buddhist,
thing for Aang to do because he's so incredibly animated throughout the whole show.
Yeah,
so.
his toy is actually, one of his action figures, like I saw in the stores, has this big goofy smile and his ears are completely flapped out.
Right.
And I'm like, that is one expressive cartoon character.
Which is funny because he does a good job holding his emotions back, talking to this thing, but as soon as he finds out,
and it's trying to goad him into showing emotion. Yeah.
And he does with the moon spirit. He goes, the moon spirit fish, and then he turns around fast and he's back to being blank face. So I thought that was kind of neat. Yeah. But while all this is happening in the real world, Admiral Zhao is making a siege to the water tribe's village. And going after the moon spirit because that's what Zhao's destiny is. He's I'm gonna kill the moon spirit. And
now, is this the? I'm sorry to interrupt, but is this the season finale of season 1?
I believe yes.
I think it is. Okay, because that was that whole arc or whatever. Okay, carry on. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. But yeah, Admiral Zhao's obsessed with killing the moon spirit, and of course, Iroh being Iroh, he's not wanting that to happen because he has more respect for
spirit world.
The spirit world and all nations.
Yeah.
So that episode was my favorite because it was one that stuck out the most, and I'm a big fan of giant battles and stuff like that.
Now in part 2, is that where Aang comes back as a big blue avatar
giant
monster?
Yeah.
That he can't control it, right?
No, he can't control it, and I can't remember if this is the one where... Yeah, because I think Zhao dies in this episode, and, Zuko's, offers his hand, but he just doesn't accept it, so... Because he's an asshole till the end.
Yeah.
And,
God bless him.
Yeah, and again, I can't remember what the princess's name was, but because she was touched by the moon spirit, she's the only thing that can restore the moon and give life back to the spirit.
And that's very sad for for the Japanese rice wine boy.
Right.
Because-
It does make for a great joke later on.
Yes.
Like, way later on.
loses his first love there.
And kisses her, like, as she's floating up into to take care of moon business.
Yes.
But
gotta go do moon business. Understood.
But overall, a great episode, and I really would have loved to, like, combine the two parts, but I at least thought with part 2, like, that's where most of everything happens. Like, Zhao explains that he found out that the moon spirit lived amongst the mortal world as the fish.
As a big carp.
As a big old carp.
I feel your pain, because another one of mine is like part 2 of like a 4-parter, and it's also one of the great battles. But another thing Avatar does really well is great battles. Like the battle choreographies are,
but it did
kind of what you'd expect for people with bending powers.
But this episode did touch, like, because if you remember the owl saying, like, someone else came in here to, like, take advantage of my library, and it was Zhao, like, looking up, like, researching the moon spirit fish.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
Pretty neat how it like ties everything.
They
together.
tie a lot of things together. You can tell that the writers paid a lot of attention.
Yeah, it seems like they had a very good outline for the whole thing when they started, because there are a lot of another thing that they make reference to in the library is the huge turtle lionfish that Aang will ride on later. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, look at this crazy! Like it's a throwaway thing where he just throws the book out. It's just one of the jokes of how every animal except that one bear is a mix of two animals.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and one last thing I will say about this episode is another cool scene of Iroh just being a badass out of nowhere. Because, you see Iroh being like this fun-loving, just goofy old man. Then as soon as, like, Zhao's about to kill the moon spirit, he's like, I will do to you to what you do to that fish tenfold,
Yeah. Oh, God, he's such a...
He is great.
He is such... Man.
You see the
I wish he was my dad.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dad, if you hear this.
You see the Dragon of the West come out right there. That was really cool.
Yeah. I mean, he was such a respected general, and you forget that. The characters are so good at, like, being multifaceted. Like... Sokka can be like a ridiculous clown and also like this great inspirational leader, like at the same time. And like Uncle Iroh is probably the best example, who's like seems so calm, cool, collected, and funny and like easygoing until it's time not to be, and then he's he's terrifying.
I think what they did well with all the characters is they are good at processing time. So who we were when we were children is wildly different than who we were as young adults, and that's wildly different from who we became as middle-aged adults, etc., etc. And so Iroh's personality isn't just him flipping a switch, it's him accessing a part of his past that's no longer necessary. And that's really what aging is about, or aging gracefully, or acquiring wisdom is
aging if you don't have to keep leading troops.
Well, it's realizing what's necessary and what's not.
Yeah.
What you can devote your energy to in a positive way or in a meaningful way versus what you don't need to. And one of the things that they do really well from the first episode to the last is they write the young characters in such a way where all this really traumatic, exciting drama is happening to them, and they are changing. And Zuko's a great example of that as well. And so they're really good at processing time, I think, for like how time affects and changes personality types, and then builds these complicated characters out of relatively simple characters.
I was going to say that about Zuko, because I was going to say you can definitely see the contrast between Iroh and Zuko, because Zuko is very brash and like very like takes up more energy than he needs to
to do anything.
Like the smallest thing, he's being all dramatic and extra.
He is the person that yells at the waitress that he needs another glass of water.
Yeah.
Well, and you have to wonder, Iroh's connection to him may not just be familial. It may also be because he sees a lot of himself in that child, because once again, that distance of time from the age of whatever, 10 to 12 to 15 to 25, etc., that distance of time, once you've been through it, you can see it and recognize it really easily.
Well, especially being like a former general, there had to be like some point where he had so much ambition it made him brash.
Exactly.
And Iroh also, I mean, having lost a son, I'm sure in a lot of ways, views Zuko as a surrogate son to him. Especially seeing how badly his brother is doing in that department of phrasing him.
Yeah.
That's nice, good episode.
Nicely done, Levi. Alex, number 3.
So number 3 for me was Firebending Masters.
All right.
This is season 3.
Okay.
Episode 12, so it's about halfway through, and this is the one where Zuko and Aang are together at this point. Like, Zuko's joined the party.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good for them.
And Zuko is determined to teach Aang firebending.
Yeah.
But there's a great scene at the beginning where Aang's like trying to do firebending, and Zuko's like, "Well, just show me what you got." And Aang like produces this puff cloud, and then Zuko's like, "No, you got to do it like this," and Zuko does the exact same thing. And Zuko's like, "Oh my god, I can't firebend anymore." And so they realize upon talking to Toph, because she learned directly from the mole badger things, how to bend, that they have to go to the source. And so,
which is dragons.
Well, but they don't know it's dragons. They just know that they think that dragons are extinct.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to this village, and the village is like still populated by this ancient people. They thought the ancient people were dead, long dead and gone. The ancient people come out, and they are hysterically funny. Like, they're like, it's one of those things where they've made this really serious episode, but like all the side characters are really hilarious, and like they'll say crazy things, and like the way that they're very funny. They seem like they should be very serious, but they're not, you know. And then they go through this whole thing, and these 2 big dragons come out, and they have to do a dance with them. And then,
that scene is so pretty, animation.
Yeah, so that's the reason that I chose it, is because I hadn't watched the whole series from front to end in maybe a couple of years, maybe more. And I was like, well, I don't remember like a lot of the episodes, individually, but this particular scene I remember really strongly. Mm-hmm. And so I went back and rewatched it, and that episode is really, it's really good. It's the reason that later there's such a bond between Zuko and Aang, is because they go off on this adventure by themselves, and then they come down off the mountaintop, and they've received the blessing from these, these dragons,
they learn
or whatever.
The dragon dance.
And at the end of the dance, both the dragons breathe fire around them and put them in this tunnel of fire.
So good.
And when the fire comes down, Zuko goes, "I understand now. I get it.
I get everything. I know it all."
Yeah, and he's like, "I saw colors that I didn't even know were colors." Like, it's like
he's gouging his eyes out because he saw too much.
Yeah, he's like, it's like
it took a real H.P. Lovecraft turn at that point. It's the color out of space.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Starring Nicolas Cage.
Man, that movie. But yeah, so they come down, and then they're like talking to the tribe, and they're like, "Well, we thought, my uncle Iroh killed he said he killed the last of the dragons."
Yeah.
And the tribesman was like, no, he was here like 25 years ago. He's the last one that got, so his uncle had actually come and gotten the blessing from these 2 dragons, and he was the last person to have been there. And then he came back to society, and even back then when he was like a badass, whatever, he was like, I killed the last of the dragons, so that no one would
protect
them.
Again, going back to his respect for the spirits
and nature.
Yeah. So,
which, again, really cool. I think that's even how he got his nickname, the Dragon of the West.
Yeah, because he supposedly killed the last of the dragons.
Right.
And the whole thing was Zuko's family, and you find this out in this episode, the reason that dragons were presumed to be extinct was because Zuko's family was like, "Oh, well, if we kill dragons, we'll be considered really prestigious."
Yeah.
Because Zuko apparently comes from a long line of crazy people.
Well, a long line of people
I never would have guessed.
that suffer from extremely low self-esteem and are constantly trying to prove themselves.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's kind of a representation of fire. Like, it consumes everything to grow itself. Mm-hmm. And so for Uncle Iroh to not be that kind of firebender, you see other firebenders. He is a rarity in that respect, that he doesn't feed off his anger, and he doesn't, again, like I say, consume everything to build up himself.
Well, it's like he also studies other bending, like his water bending for the to transfer lightning over.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's a water bending variable.
Move,
which firebenders are like, you can't learn water benders. No, don't learn their shit.
And he explains it. I think it was the episode he was first talking about the lightning to Zuko, he wrote it down in the dirt where it's like everyone kind of benefits off each other, not one nation. So it's
yeah.
And that was neat.
That's one of the things that they talk about when they meet with the dragons and come down off the hill. They're like, oh, fire isn't just used for destruction, it's used for birth because
like
it's the sun and it puts life on the planet. And that was one of the parts where the tribe's called like the Sun Tribe, and they're like, yeah, we're called the Sun Tribe. Duh, like, because Aang's like, did you guys know this all along? And they're like, and they point to their headdress, and it's got this big. Their headdress has this big like flaring sun on it, and they're like, oh, we're called the Sun Tribe.
Never would have figured that out.
Yeah, it's like it was really good. Like the tribe's people were wildly sarcastic, and it was a nice injection of humor in this otherwise very serious episode.
Another hallmark of the Avatar show is being able to do that. There's a very funny throwaway line, and I don't know if it's on this episode or after Zuko and Katara get back from their adventure, but Toss like, I want to go on a learning adventure with Zuko.
Yeah, because
the other three, Katara, her brother, and Aang all go on like 101 adventures with Zuko to like form the bond. And Tom's like, I want to go on an adventure with Zuko.
Yeah. Oh, and that was another thing that was really funny. So at the very beginning of this episode, you were talking about how Sokka becomes more functional in the group, less of a clown, more of a serious figure, right?
Right.
So this is deep into that because we're closing in on the last episodes at this point. At the beginning of this episode, whenever Aang does his little shitty puffball, and then Zuko does his little shitty puffball, Sokka comes walking through the room and he's like, hey, what are you jerks doing? Jerk bending? and both Zuko and Aang are pissed because they can't firebend. And they're both like, and like Sokka doesn't take the temperature of the room at all. He goes, jerk bending. Still got it. And he walks out of the room.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Because you haven't seen him do something.
It's almost breaking
stupid.
the fourth wall of like, I'm still the comic relief if I want to be. Yeah.
Jerk bending. Still got it. I was like, oh man, that's lovely.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're off to the world of part 2s now. I did part 3 first, so I'll do part 2 first. And my part 2 is actually the last 4 episodes of Avatar: Last Airbender in season 3, The Book of Fire, is a 4-part battle. It's the battle of whatever the name of the meteor is.
It was actually, I think it was like the Dark Sun or something.
The Dark Sun, yeah,
it is something like that.
Yeah, because
basically Sozin's comet.
Yeah, I think that might have been. But yeah, the comet's coming. And that's why we're having this epic battle, because Aang is mastering all 4 elements, so he can fight. What is it? What's he end up calling himself? The Phoenix King?
Oh, the Phoenix King.
Yeah, the fighting the motherfucking Phoenix King.
Cool.
Because he's so cool. Azula's dad thinks he's so cool.
He gives her the Fire Lord. He's like, I'm going to be the Phoenix King.
Yeah, I don't. You can be the Fire Lord now. Enjoy. But yeah, so but he's going to be pumped up by this meteor. So it's quote unquote a fair fight between these two.
Oh, of course, naturally.
So I picked part 2, but I just as easily could have picked part 3 of this four-parter of this 4-parter, because
it's, this is an audio medium.
This
right?
is a very
just so you just as a reminder,
4-parter. Part 2 and 3 of the 4-parter. First of all, I will say this had one of the most satisfying ends of any cartoon I've ever watched. Like, it ends in a way where I just felt real nice about it.
Aang rips the Fire Lord's head. I'm sorry, the Phoenix King's head off.
Spoilers.
Oh, sorry.
And then he shits right in his throat hole.
Yeah, and for a kids' cartoon, that was really forward-thinking.
I was surprised by their
They just zoom in on his face
and his
you can
butthole.
Just see.
He looked like he died screaming. It was
there's not enough fecal humor in children's shows, but they didn't.
They
didn't shy away.
He had glazed donut eyes. They were just gone.
Glazed with poo.
Glazed with poo. But yeah, sorry.
So, it's gonna be a hard road to hoe.
Oh boy.
So, it starts. Aang was kidnapped last episode. Like he's just gone, and no one knows where he is. It turns out he's on a turtle's back, talking with all his ancestors. So he can go into
from the last episode.
Indeed, he can go into the Avatar state and talk to any of the previous avatars. He's got like all their collective knowledge if he asks for it. Like it's not just in his head; he has to actively seek it out. And he's talking to every single avatar because he doesn't want to kill. He doesn't want to kill the Emperor, and he's trying to find a way out of it. And every single, like, you get all these really cool stories from, like, each of the previous avatars. And they always end with, yeah, and then I had to kill that motherfucker.
Yeah, I snapped his neck right now.
And so even when he's talking to airbenders who, like, value life among, like, above all else, like, even the avatars that come from the air tribes are like, no, you're probably going to have to kill him.
Yeah, you know, as the avatar, you have to kind of forget.
Yeah, avatars are all for of the nation, and you have to bring balance. Like, that's your thing. And, you're going to have to kill this motherfucker, because he's not going to stop. You have to stop him. So, Aang's like, while Aang is getting this horrible, like, knowledge, we get the army that's building up to attack. Because there's got to be a distraction while Aang does the final fight. And you got to have something for all the other characters to do. Sokka and Katara, like, get all these really cool reunions with characters that you've met all the way back to season 1. You get Aang's first fire teacher.
Zhong Zhong.
Yeah, who Aang could not work with. They didn't see things.
Yeah, he was kind of a bitter old man.
Yeah.
Wasn't he part of the White Lotus group, though?
Yeah.
Yes, this is also the episode where you learn about what the White Lotus
like with
is.
Boomy. And,
Boomy's a member. And
Sokka's,
Boomy's like, don't you
Sokka's
know?
master.
All old people know each other.
All old people know each other.
Yeah. So there's that really cool reveal, like, about the White Lotus, who has been teased since, like, season 1. I think it was episode 4 or 5. Uncle Iroh is like upset because he lost one of his Pai-Jong tiles. It's the White Lotus tile. And he's freaking out that he lost it. And Zuko cannot fucking, like, who gives a shit about one of your tiles? But it's also the symbol of this group. Mm-hmm. And, like, I guess it's his Boy Scout badge that he's in this group. He can't. It means a lot to him.
But don't you know it was in his sleeve the whole time?
He gets it back. Well, he gets it back at the end out of his sleeve where he had misplaced it because that Uncle Iroh.
It's a club full of old people. If you don't think they're going to lose their Pai Show tokens,
right,
and not have them at the meetings that they forget occasionally. That's what happens when your club's full of old dudes. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, and so you get to find out the White Lotus, which is my favorite of all the running, like, mysteries. Like, that one was the one that, like, I loved the most. It was so cool.
And it was very cool because, like, you also find out how Boomy escaped Amashu, or when he was
Boomy also tells his escape story, which is just fucking...
Yeah, during the
insane.
eclipse.
Yeah. Like, because it's got these slides everywhere. He basically, like, shoots himself down.
And he did it all by himself, which was crazy.
Well, sure. Why the fuck wait for rescue?
He's like, I'm the king of this place. I'll just do it myself.
Old grandpas are doing it for themselves. Yeah. They don't... They don't need no...
That's because he's an absolute unit.
Yeah. True story. But here is the scene that is the reason why I didn't pick part 3. I almost picked part 3 because part 3 is watching Azula slowly go crazy, and I fucking love it. And there's a scene where she's cutting her hair and she sees her mom and she's fucking flipping shit and just going madder and madder, and I goddamn love it. It's a work of art.
I'm not crazy, you're crazy.
Yeah, very much. Very Joker vibes. But I picked episode 2 because at the very end, Zuko is outside of his uncle's tent, and he's like, he's talking to Katara, right? He's like, I don't know.
I can't face
him. He won't
right
forgive me. Like, because up until this point, Zuko had betrayed him. He was the reason he got arrested. Like, they had a falling out in which Zuko basically said a lot of horrible shit to him.
Mm-hmm. I hate you, Uncle, for all time.
Yeah. And you smell.
And you should get something done about those toenails also.
What about them nails? Gross. What about them nails?
Just keep socks on until you see a doctor. Nobody wants to see that.
Why is that one toe black?
Oh, God.
You're diabetic. You know you can't have that much sugar. That toe's going to have to be cut off.
God damn it.
So, yeah, he's freaking out outside the tent. He's like, I don't know. And he finally comes in. And he gets like 6 words out about how sorry he is. And his uncle just fucking hugs him. And even now I'm tearing up because it's the most beautiful goddamn thing I'd ever seen.
It seriously is like one of the most like wholesome, heartwarming things.
Yeah, and if you didn't love Uncle Ira, first of all, you're an idiot if you didn't love him before. But at this point...
it just goes to show he holds no hatred towards...
Well, he even says, I didn't hate you. I was so sad you'd lost your way.
Right.
And
he found it again.
Yeah, and I'm so happy now that you found it. I'm so proud of you. And like those two, and it's he still has to fight his sister in the next 2 episodes. But this is the healing process because he already had the confrontation with his father.
Right. And it's like you get that full circle story arc that his character
he healed with his father. He healed with his knife throwing girlfriend. Right. Like this was the last thing he needed. Before he beat his sister's ass and called it a day. And he did. And it was so well written. And the first time I watched it, I remembered like thinking to myself, like, what a gutsy move to not even let him finish the speech.
Right.
Like he has this whole speech of forgiveness prepared. And in a kid's show to have his father, his uncle, well, basically his fucking father, ignore it and just fucking hug him. I was like, oh, God damn it, it's so beautiful. So that's my number 2.
It's beautiful.
You go, Levi. I can't hold it together.
I'll give you a
topic. There.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Your topic's Levi's number 2. Obviously.
Well, while he's having a breakdown, my number 2 was the Tales of Ba Sing Se.
Oh, great. That's gonna fucking fix it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's my number 2 also.
Oh, well, excellent. We can combine our 2 right here.
Smush it together.
Why you gotta make shit weird, Reno?
So
just because you're having a man cry over there.
We're in my bedroom. You guys are like family.
You got mascara running everywhere. Like you look horrible.
Yeah, you say another fucked up thing to me and Levi, and I'm gonna remind you about Uncle Iroh's hug.
Oh, there you go. You got him again.
Yeah, I did. He deserved it.
So, Tales of Ba Sing Se was great because it followed a bunch of the little side stories of the group. Vignettes.
They're called vignettes. From the French word baguette.
Which, of course,
it's from the French word vignette.
Just because I want to...
That doesn't sound right.
But just because I want to make Reno cry again, one major reason...
Don't do that one first. That was like the 5th one. All right.
That's why I'm picking... I picked this one because one of the... Jesus Christ.
I just wiped my eyes off on Levi's sleeve.
But
those tears are on him now.
One of the vignettes
one
of the vignettes from this episode was Iroh's little side story involving all the people he's helped, which ends up leading to you finding out that all the stuff he was gathering was so he can have a little memorial for his son who died during the war, and also developed him down the road in his youth. His youth.
The 2
very, very sad and very if you're an Iroh fan, it's makes you
it's a must-have
for
all Iroh fans.
So I haven't watched this show front to end in a long time, and so I was like, what episodes do I remember? And the Firebending Masters was one, and then this was one, and so I went back and rewatched it because I was like, is there any part to that other than Uncle Iroh making me cry? Because I don't remember anything else. And so I went back and first of all, it's also kind of in the middle of the arc at season 2 episode 15.
Yeah.
And there are 6 vignettes in that, which is crazy because once again, the only one I remember was like after years of time away from it, the only one I remembered is the one where Uncle Iroh goes to do the memorial for his son who passed away in the war.
Right.
But did you rewatch it?
Yes.
Did you rewatch the whole thing?
I was gonna say also Sokka's was very short, but funny. It was a
so
funny
good.
One.
The haiku, the haiku hip hop rap.
So the first one was Toph and Katara.
Yeah.
And Katara forces Toph to take a day off and go to the spa and have like a girls' day out.
Toph has a spa day.
Yeah. And it was interesting because it was sort of a little bit more, like each one of these vignettes was a little bit more powerful than I remembered because they were so incredibly overshadowed by Uncle Iroh's.
Yeah, right.
And the one with Toph and Katara was really interesting because Toph is this very strong person, this like She's not worried about what other people think of her.
Very tomboyish.
Et cetera, et cetera. And, like, on the way back from the spa, some girls start making fun of their makeup.
A bunch of bitches.
Yeah, just a bunch of fucking do nothing bitches. And,
where do you shove that, Gunwell?
And,
too real.
I know.
Yeah, that made the middle schooler in me cry.
I know.
The truth hurts the most.
And Katara, like, tells Toph that she's pretty, basically. She's like, I know it doesn't really matter and it's not important to you, but, you know, since you can't see, I can tell you that you're pretty. And Toph is like, oh, I am? And it's interesting, because I find that that's not just a statement on a blind girl who is a tomboy, but that's a statement about most girls who just don't realize how they present to the world.
Right.
Like, most girls walk around and think that there's all kinds of shit wrong with their appearance because we live in a culture that makes you think that.
Yeah.
And most girls are, like, you're fine. You know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the way you look. Most girls are pretty. And, like, most girls spend a shitload of time worried about that and thinking about it, and no one actually, like, takes the time because to everyone else it's so obvious.
Right.
Like, but as the individual, and I found that to be a really good, like, it was a really good
wholesome message.
Well,
it's like
together message. It was a good way to address physical beauty without pushing it as like this is a thing you need to feel. Yeah. You know?
And it's great because, like, because you never know what someone's thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
Like, they might outwardly seem like they feel pretty confident about themselves, but then you find out, like, they do have these thoughts.
That they're normal.
Yeah, exactly. You might think, like, wow, you're a very attractive person, but they're like...
You can't see my kinkles.
Yeah.
So, stop looking
But that's
at
the thing, we also see ourselves differently than how other people see us. So.
Yeah, and I think that was the main message, was, like, we all see ourselves differently than, like, other people do, and it's good to hear those affirmations come from other people,
For sure.
And I thought that was a really interesting... the second one in the vignettes was the Iroh one, which I thought was bold because they put it number 2 in a series of 6, and like, there's no way they didn't know how hard that was going to hit.
And I was telling Reno, like, at first you think it's like, oh, like, Iroh's just being Iroh out here.
It's just a normal day for Iroh.
Yeah.
And then when he starts putting that little memorial up his son, like, that caught me so off guard. That I was like, oh fuck.
Well, and he sings the same song that he sang to that small child.
Then that song has a totally different meaning.
Yeah, which is well played.
Very good.
Yeah.
And
then we have the Aang in the zoo, right?
That's
the third one.
Oh, and another thing too about the Iroh vignette was it was in honor of Mako, who was, and that was like, it was like, oh, it's his dead son. Oh, in honor of Mako. Like, it was like, why did you have to kick me in the balls right after you punched me in the gut? What the fuck, guys?
And I was telling him about that too, because it was like, after he passed away, his protege took over as... Also, because he voiced Aku, he ended up coming back and voicing Aku for the comeback of Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a nice little memorial as well.
Yeah.
Like, really good
it was
job.
painful.
Big
and
time.
I'm still very angry about it. The third one was Aang and the zoo.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So this one, there's a guy who's a zookeeper and he doesn't have the money to, like, it was really funny the way he said it.
And this is after Appa's been kidnapped.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Aang goes to the zoo and he's like, why don't the animals seem happy? And he's like, well, they won't give me any money because my zoo's crappy.
And my zoo's crappy because they won't give me any money.
And Aang's like, well, we can just take them outside and, like, outside the gate and put a zoo out there. And then it's this... And then hilarity ensues because Aang's trying to wrangle all these weird fucking animals. And one of the animals that they had that was great was the Rabbaroo, which is a rabbit-kangaroo mix. And
like, you need something that can jump higher than a kangaroo naturally.
It was terrifying, and that's the creature that was eating the cabbages. I think that's the last time we see the guy with the cabbage cart, because he's like, my cabbage, forget it. Like, I think that's the last time we see that guy, and, or at least the last time he yells about his cabbages.
Which is actually really another thing I liked about Avatar, is, like, the creatures are, like, really creative in it. I really do.
Which is
enjoy
the
it.
running joke with the dude from Boxing Day who has a pet bear.
Yeah.
And they're like, you mean a bear badger? No. You mean a bear cat?
No.
You mean a dog bear?
No.
Are you crazy?
It's just a bear. And I think, and this I have no proof of, and it's, but I think it's a parody of, there's a Dungeons and Dragons creature called an owlbear.
Oh, cool.
And I think they, for that reason, picked the bear to be just a bear.
Yeah.
And possibly a little homage to Dungeons and Dragons.
That would be pretty great.
The owl bear. He's like, no, just a bear.
The fourth one was the Sokka Poetry Slam,
which was
funny.
Just very funny.
I appreciated that they had they didn't go so heavy with all these because that one was just funny.
They had to lighten up. They were hurting us.
And
too
of course,
much.
it's Sokka.
Yeah.
Of course,
and also, going back to the fact that this was originally a children, young adults, you teach them about haiku. It's educational while making them laugh. And I'm like, good. Give them some Asian culture while you're in here.
My favorite thing about that episode was obviously because Sokka had these ladies eating in the palm of his hands, just being himself, and then
one step too far.
I was gonna say I think the head lady of this poetry group comes up and starts spouting off haikus at a haiku battle.
It's a poetry slam.
It's a poetry slam.
But it's funny because as soon as she walks off, he's gets a little too cocky, and then he's like, wait a minute, they're all looking at him angry. He goes, starts counting on his fingers and knows he had 6. Then the bouncer comes up sorry, one too many syllables, pal. And just tosses him out the door.
Window. One too like the punishment for one too many syllables is death. Just gone.
But yeah, that was a really good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then let's see. Oh, and then there was the Zuko one.
And that was really cute.
It was cute.
This one was cute, but it was also super heartbreaking. So he goes on a date with a girl. His uncle Iroh basically forces him to do it.
Yeah.
The date is awful because Zuko's awkward AF.
Big time.
Super awkward.
There's a couple of good moments. Like when he lights all the candles.
And
then,
at one point she's asking well, where did you guys come from and how long have you been in the city?
Yeah, he's got to keep secrets because they're refugees from the Fire Nation.
From the Fire Nation. And he's we were with a traveling circus, and she's like, oh, let me guess, did you juggle? And he's like, yeah, I juggled. And she just hands him a bunch of shit. And she's like, I've always wanted to learn to juggle.
Can you teach me?
And he just fucking drops it on the floor. He doesn't even throw it. Oh no, he throws each item one at a time
his head
in the air.
He's like, I haven't practiced in a bit.
Yeah, it was really hard to watch.
My favorite bit of that episode was at the end where she tries to take him to her favorite spot that's all lit up.
Yeah.
And it's all dark and goes, close your eyes, I'm gonna do something.
Yeah.
And then he uses firebending to
to
quickly
light
put
out
lights.
those candles.
This tells me that she was a dumb bitch too, because as soon as she listen.
You could have just said dumb, Levi.
No, she's a dumb bitch.
Also a bitch.
Why? Because listen, as soon as she opens her eyes, she could have gone, Firebender! There's no way you could have done that so quick.
Well, he was with the circus. Maybe he acrobated his way around.
She wasn't dumb, but she wanted D. So
maybe
she's
I'm
not going to turn him in.
If she's not a dumb bitch, she's a horny bitch.
Which I not only allow, but am in favor of.
But maybe Zuko had that big Disney energy. And she was like, this bitch is going to sing me a song if I just don't yell about it.
She was in her head, she was like, I want to be a part of his world.
I guess that must have happened.
I'm not the only one here.
Man, in that case, I guess love really made her blind there, because my first thought would have been you're a firebender. Don't you do that?
Half his face is melted off. Yeah, love made her blind.
That's something. But that was
yeah, that's something.
But it was nice. It did have a good.
Half the face.
But it was nice because Iroh's looking out the window, seeing just kind of keeping an eye out if he comes back, and then he ends up saying he had a nice time in his date.
Yeah, which was very cute.
It was really cute.
Yeah.
I had a good time.
But yeah.
And then the last little vignette is Momo.
Another saddie.
It was so depressing because he was trying to find Appa, and he was following. It was this whole adventure through the city where he's following trails of things that he thinks is Appa.
Dances with monkeys.
He had a
befriend some cat.
Not only that, he had
demons.
A little scruff of her hair, of his hair.
Yeah, tied around his wrist.
Yeah,
it was
a breast
sad.
cancer awareness ribbon, around, an Appa awareness ribbon.
Which he does eventually get chased by these wild cats.
Meow meows.
Or panther cats,
They're
whatever.
meow meows.
Meow meows. But it's when they all get captured, he ends up freeing them too, but one of the cats grabs the tuft of Appa's hair and leads it to the last spot.
Yeah. Which is a big Appa footprint.
And then he falls asleep in the footprint.
And it rains on him? Jesus, you didn't have to make it rain on him, guys.
They were hey, since episode or vignette number 2 in this, we've been pretty nice to your feelings.
Somebody
so,
might be smiling.
You know what?
Yeah.
I hate that.
I hate
that
it
so much.
I hate it. Remember when
smiling.
I need you in the balls
I'm
with
gonna
Uncle
shit
Iroh?
on your fucking parade.
I'm gonna shit on your bridge?
I'm gonna bridge on your shit.
What?
I'm gonna shit on a shingle.
Is this your bridge? I'm gonna shit on it.
It's like a weird variation of that old "is your refrigerator running" joke. It's like, is your refrigerator a toilet? Is now. I shat on it.
I have had to have shat on it.
I had to have shat
What's
on
the
it.
past participle for that?
Shat.
I have
Shat.
had
I
shat.
shat- or shatted.
I
shatted.
upon your...
I shattered upon it. That's how Shakespeare would have described it.
Is your refrigerator a toilet? Read
Actually,
it.
I think that's a line from Hamlet. I shattered upon it.
Jeez.
Alas, poor Yorick.
Poor Yorick.
I shattered
I
upon
shatted
it.
upon it.
I gave the old low Yorick.
Oh no, that's not the low
dude.
Yorick.
It's not, but I
No.
just wanted to mention the low Yorick.
I love the low
I
Yorick.
hadn't mentioned it in a long time.
Well,
Ask us in the comments if you want to know what a low Yorick is. You'll
don't,
be
trust
sorry
me,
you did.
You'll be sad for a long time.
Yeah.
So, number 1 episode.
Everyone's, yeah, I feel bad. I'm the only one with a different part 2.
it's okay.
It's
Was
not.
it an Electric Boogaloo
Yeah,
for
I
you?
knew it.
So my number 1 was stories of bossing. No, I just want to be part of your crew.
You're not.
I'm not.
Yeah,
No.
sure.
Even if you did that, you're not.
No, believe me, I know.
I know.
My
I need
number-
you to hear me.
My number
You're not.
1 was the beach.
It's the beach episode.
And you gotta have a beach episode.
Is this the one that takes place in the Fire Nation?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
this is
now I'm
this
starting
is
to
after
remember a little
Zuko has been reaccepted by his father, and his 2 weird aunts, Lee and Lo, the weird old twins,
Yeah.
take
They're basically Marge's sisters from The Simpsons. And
Yes.
they lived in the...
take Zuko and Azula, Zuko's girlfriend Mai, and Ty Lee, who is Azula's friend. And Ty Lee and Mai are kind of Azula's like henchwomen. They each have powers that help them deal with benders without being benders themselves.
Yeah.
And they all go on a beach trip. Woo! Beach trip!
We love it.
And this had to be my number 1 because it is exclusively, except for like a couple of minutes where we introduce Combustion Man for the heroes. Most of this episode is about the villains, and I love my villain development. And this is such a good way of doing it because, like, you learn things that you need to know about all 4 of the bad guys in a way that's extremely entertaining and fun, and also has a lot of heart. This is another episode where it goes from like comedy to serious like really, really fast. So it starts out, they go to the beach, and Lee and Lo tell them that the beach kind of has a magic to it. It like strips away your lies and reveals your true self. And then they say, to the beach! And they rip off their robes. And they've got these, like, bathing suits on underneath that are very unflattering, but very funny. So they all go down to the beach, and Ty Lee is getting, like, all the dude attention. Like, they put up her little campsite for her.
She's got a simp brigade.
Yeah, she has a simp brigade. She has a dude whose, like, only job is to stand in the sunlight so the light's not in her eyes.
And I did love it because, like, later on it shows him, like, holding a towel up to make it even bigger.
And Zuko and Mai are kind of having a bit of rockiness in their relationship because Mai's sort of a goth,
Crazy.
no emotion girl. And Zuko's, like, all emotion, but only the emotion of anger. So the two of them are, like, their initial attraction is being tempered by their different personalities. Like, he tries to give her a pretty shell. Mm. And she, like, fucking doesn't want it. He's like, fine then! And, like, throws it. And a dude picks it up and takes it over to Ty Lee. She's like, ooh, what a pretty shell!
Yeah, but it's funny because with that, like, May said that, it's like, well, only stupid girls would like that. And then she immediately goes to
some girls. Yeah, he's like the worst kind of girls. And he brings her ice cream and drops it on her.
Gee, thanks.
So, yeah, and Mai's just being kind of mean about it. Like, he's trying to do nice things, and Mai's being her typical sarcastic self.
Well, and Zuko's not only being, wildly emotive, but he's also being Zuko, which means that he's half as good at everything, and he's trying 3 times as hard.
Yeah,
like that's sort of his MO. Is that the thing that makes him lovable is he tries 3 times as hard, but the thing that makes him socially undesirable is that he tries 3 times as hard.
Yes, and his reaction to failure is extremely terrifying anger.
Yeah.
That's probably not good. I would assume
his awkwardness doesn't.
He would be an abusive boyfriend if I had not watched the show and learned better.
Yeah,
he seems like the type.
I think if Uncle Iroh weren't in his life, he absolutely would have been.
Oh yeah, if his only influence had been Azula and his dad,
time. He would have been just like them.
Yeah, because the quote good influence, the mother is out of the picture early, and you don't find out what happens to her unless you read the comics that carry on after the show ends. You get to find out what happens to the mom, but that's another story for another show. Comic Dissection, my other show. So Azula, meanwhile, is watching these kids play volleyball, and it's like, yeah, we're going to play volleyball with these kids. And Azula handles it like a war. She's like, okay, the girl serving has she walks a little with a gait. I think she's got an old injury on her left ankle. If we fucking play against that, it is weakened her. And they end up just destroying the other team to the point that, like, the net catches on fire, and they do like a little atom bomb smoke cloud when they spike it.
She has a crazy behind the net that's on fire monologue.
She's like, "I've destroyed you. You shall never rise from the ashes of this failure and defeat."
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, and these dudes who are watching it, named Chan and Rongjon, are like, "Hey, you guys want to come to our party?" And Zula's like, "Do you know who we are?" And they're like, do you know who we are? We're Chan and Rongjon. We're the coolest guys on this island.
We're kind of big deals.
Yeah, the party's going to have all the most influential teenagers. And Azula gets it in her mind, like, let's go to this party and not tell people who we are.
Yeah.
So they do, and Azula hates it because she's not charming. She's scary, and, she can't get anyone to talk to her. Ty Lee's got the exact other problem. Mm-hmm. Like, she's getting backed in the corner by 8 guys to the point where she, does her special maneuver that paralyzes them and runs away. She's got a special, 5-finger death punch thing that, paralyzes people. And
she knows all those pressure points.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Rongjon is kind of hitting on Mai, and Zuko is being, extremely overprotective. Don't talk to my girlfriend! Yeah, The super high self-esteem his father gave him is really shining through here.
Yeah, I could definitely see it in that episode.
Yeah, so they all end up getting kicked out of the party because Zuko throws Ranjong through a vase. That is Chan's grandma's. And he's like, my grandma! Dude, my parents aren't supposed to know I had this party. So they go down to the beach and they have this huge, fight where everyone's just, raw emotion. They're each telling each other what their fucking problems is.
Yes,
and they're each describing why they're so broken in ways that I feel like if I was 12 or 13 years old would speak to me really strongly. I'd be like, I too have parents that don't talk to me at all and whatever. And they kind of come to a newfound respect for each other, and us as the audience learned a lot about the 4 characters and what motivates them.
Even with Azula, you can kind of
Azula was the worst because she was like, you 3 are pathetic with your fucking whining shit. I would never do that. And I'm the one that has the most right to, because my own mother looked at me as a monster, and I saw her hate every time she looked. And so, of course, Zula opens up just like the rest of them. And then they all, do the group hug and make up. And then Azula's like, hey, I know something that'll help us get rid of our pent-up aggression. And they go back to the party and burn the fucking house down. And the last scene is of the 4 of them all it's like a postcard of the 4 of them all smiling and arms around each other. The house is on flames behind them. And I'm like, chef's kiss. And perfect end to the perfect episode of Avatar. So, of course, it's villains and it's villain character development. And it's all paid off later with each character. They each kind of come to grips. I mean, the healing starts on the beach, but then they eventually all come to grips. And
except for Azula.
Azula comes to grips because she gets chained up and she's breathing fire out of her mouth like a dragon. And they put her in an asylum. Healthy. Healthy into
Healthy.
Azula.
Yeah, she's.
You're right. Azula does not get the help she needs. Mental health, just like in America, not taken seriously in the
by
world
the
of
Fire
Avatar.
Nation. Yeah.
All right. That's
everyone had mental health care until the Fire Nation came.
And then one day the Fire Nation attacked. And they said, that's just another way for the government to control you. It was bad. All right. But yeah, that's my number one. God bless the villains in this show. They're great.
Love them.
Levi, what is your number one?
My number one is the Ember Island Players. My favorite episode. It's
definitely
so
one of the funniest.
As a fan of the theater and a fan of Avatar, it's the best of both worlds.
A fan of the theater, you say.
I was a fan of the theater.
So this episode starts off with Sokka coming up. He's like, "Hey guys, check this out." There's a poster for this play that's all about their journey up until now. And he's like, well, let's go kill time and go check this out.
And they're in the Fire Nation.
They're in the
right?
Fire Nation at this point.
That's important.
First of all, a great way to recap for anyone who's catching up late.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, like, when they get there, like, the play begins and starts off with Katara and Sokka's actors. And they have Katara being this very dramatic, over emotional about everything. Oh God, hope is all we have.
Everything makes me so sad.
Oh God.
Oh, we should mention that before this, Katara and Aang had kissed, and then nothing had really come of it.
Right.
All right,
and then they got Sokka being, the typical like Sokka, except the way that the actor portrayed him at first, like, oh, I'm so hungry all the time.
It's the same joke over and over again, which Sokka takes offense to.
And that's the thing. That's the most he's offended by. Is like, man, I could do way better than this.
Yeah, these jokes are not quality.
And they got Aang They got a woman playing Aang, very like childlike, way more childlike than he is. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, that's not me. I'm not a woman. What was it? Zuko and Iroh was.
They're awesome.
They're awesome, but no, but
Zuko doesn't think so.
No, Zuko's all like, I gotta restore my honor so my daddy will love me.
Honor! He just yells out the word honor occasionally.
Yeah. But it's funny because like they got all of them being like not flattering at all.
And his scar's on the wrong side.
Yeah, it's on the wrong side. Yeah. But it's like but everyone except for Toph.
They did such research.
Yeah.
Scars on the wrong side. They bragged about how much research they did to tell the story.
But it's funny because like Toph's talking shit the whole time, and as soon as her actor comes out, it's like this big buff guy, and Katara's all like, "Oh, I'm not. You might not like it, but this is the truth." He's like, "Are you kidding? I love that." Like,
yeah,
it was just a really good again retelling of everything, and
and you get a lot of good character development.
Oh, for sure.
Like you're like, all right, Toph. You can't get one over on Toph. Like,
no.
Toph is going to win.
I mean, how can you top having like a buff guy like screeching really loud to be able to see your surroundings?
Yes. So Toph is an earthbender who sees through her feet. Like she can sense vibrations through the ground. But the Toph on stage says he does it like a bat, and then just yells at people's
like, I
face.
see you doing that. I just don't see like you see.
Yeah. It's like, I use echolocation.
I forgot about his like horrible echolocation.
And he screams in their face like, you guys look pretty good.
Yeah, I got a good look at you.
Yeah.
And, but no, it was funny because I also know that,
That's water. Pick it up. There you go.
But, Sokka actually had, Yuki get him backstage to talk to his actor. He's like, I got better jokes I want to give to him.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that too. Oh, my God.
And then he actually, because Yuki's behind the actor, and as soon as Sokka told his first joke, she, like, slaps her head, like, that's so stupid. And he goes, oh, that's actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
And he ends up using it on the stage, and Sokka's just having a great time with the play. That's like, oh, man, this is great now.
So to recap, Sokka and Toph are happy with their characters. No one else is.
Right.
Everyone else is furious about their character portrayals.
And kind of going back to what you said, it does have, like, a more serious note, because Aang took it very personal with, because there was a bit where the actors were like, Katara and Aang was like, I love you like a brother. And he's like,
and only a brother. I would never be attracted to you.
Yeah.
And Aang's like, I wouldn't have it any other way. Twinkle toes.
Yeah, but then, like, they have a...
also gets to watch her and Zuko make out.
That's true.
Yeah. So Aang gets it with both barrels.
Right. So it's like with Aang going outside at, like, the intermission of the play, he goes, did you mean what you said in there? And she's like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, about only seeing me as a brother. He's like, that was the actor saying that, not me, and I'm just confused. I don't know what I want. And of course he awkwardly kisses her and makes the situation even weirder.
Yeah.
But
she storms out and he's he at least immediately realizes that he was an idiot and that was not the right move.
Right. But no, that episode just had like a lot of good stuff, and of course, because at this point he hadn't faced the Fire Lord, and they thought they were done to where they were. The play finishes with how the Fire Nation sees how it's all going to end. The Fire Lord wins. He defeats
Azula, kills her brother.
Yeah. Like all the traitors lose.
Everybody's clapping at the end because like all of the characters that like you watch for the... First of all, this is not how a play would work. Where you spend the whole play loving these characters and then watching them get buried at the end and just cheering.
But no, it was like
how did you think you're on the right side of that? Aang's just a little bald kid getting murdered by an adult male. Like, it just seems wrong to me.
Again, propaganda has weird ways of showing people.
Boy, howdy. We've learned anything.
But no, it was definitely one of my favorites because, like I said, it had a lot of funny moments, but then it got real again. Yeah. It's like, oh shit, they do have this looming threat coming up, and he's got some shit he's got to.
Well, yeah, and it was a real blow to morale. Like they all leave feeling like really, really demoralized.
Well, for sure, because
they just watched themselves get murdered, and all of their portrayals were horrible.
Well, and they watched a crowd cheer at their murder effigy too.
Well, it's like Zuko still had his thing he hasn't resolved with his uncle. Like Katara has.
Toph and him have a little heart to heart where she makes him feel better about it, and it kind of. She says that she met his uncle, and all his uncle talked about was him. And like Zuko was like, oh, it was a little sweet moment between those two.
Yeah, that was my number one though.
Yeah, it's very good, very sweet, and. Tearing up again.
I know.
Poor Aang. He's so bald. No one can love his bald self.
He really doesn't have any hair.
He's just a brother.
He's just a brother. What is that?
He's just a brother.
I love him like a brother. All right, Alex. Take us out of the playhouse and into wherever we're going.
My number one is Zuko Alone. It was season 2, episode 7.
I think I remember this.
Zuko-centric episodes are always good.
Yes.
So this one, he had been exiled by his dad, and he had been wandering the world with Iroh. Like, so they had done that whole tea house thing temporarily and all that stuff. But then him and Iroh had their falling out, and he was like, "I need to go out on my own." Blah, 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 I'm being stupid.
Yeah.
So the episode opens with him on this...
I don't need the greatest, most supportive teacher in the world.
Yeah, fuck you fabulous,
you
great...
old bastard.
Yeah. So the episode opens up with him,
I hate you for all time.
Like, riding across this kind of desert landscape on a ostrich horse, which is hysterical.
A chocobo.
And yeah, it's a chocobo. Yeah. And he's in the Earth Nation because I think he was leaving. I think he left Ba Sing Se.
Yeah.
And anyway, so there's this scene where he comes up on some Earth Nation soldiers, and they are just being shitty. Like, they're just being bullies to the local people in this, like, little kind of village or
Now,
town.
are these the Daily agents or just normal?
They're just soldiers? Normal Earth Kingdom soldiers.
Yeah, the Daily are, like, the Earth Nation Special Forces.
Yeah, these are just regular run-of-the-mill soldiers.
Just
and they're
curious.
being shitty, and there's a little kid... And so Zuko stops them from being shitty to this little kid. And the little kid is like, "Hey, why don't you come back to my house and my family will feed you or whatever." And he's like, "No, I need to keep moving," because he's incognito because he's the fucking Fire Lord's kid or whatever.
Yeah, who is hated by everyone.
Yeah,
and the Fire Nation don't want him. The Earth Nation don't want him.
Yeah,
except in chains.
Yeah, and so he this kid convinces him to come back to his family's place anyway, and so he goes. And meanwhile, what they're doing is, throughout this entire episode, they're interspersing it with flashbacks to Zuko's childhood. Mm-hmm. And they're telling the story of his mom. Oof. They're telling the story of Uncle Iroh.
Yeah.
They tell the story of how Uncle Iroh's son eventually dies. Like, they're revealing this in pieces parallel to this story that's happening in the present time. Mm-hmm. And they're really good at melding these two things. So he goes back to the home with this kid. He doesn't want to stay. The mom convinces him that they need help working on the barn. There's a scene of him up on top of the barn, like, hammering in nails, and all his nails are going in all fucked up and crooked because he doesn't know how to do any manual labor.
He's a prince.
And and it's a neat little, like, kind of, and everyone in the family sees how inept he is, and they don't care. They're like, you were helpful. And the father says to him, those weren't real soldiers. All the real soldiers are at the front. These are just bullies that were left behind and think they're in charge of the town now.
Right.
And so the guys that were good enough to be soldiers have all been shipped out. And one of the family that's helping him, their oldest son, is in the front. Like, he's out at war. And so as you're learning of Zuko's past and his family history, you're also learning about this family. And then this family gets the news that their son has been killed in the war. And when that happens, you discover that Uncle Iroh's child died in the war. In the first war. And then it goes through the story of how that changed Uncle Iroh, and that led to Zuko's dad becoming the Fire Lord and all this, because Iroh was supposed to be he was supposed to be the Fire Lord. Well, he didn't step down. What actually happened was Zuko's dad killed his own father. They don't come right out and say it, but it's pretty clear.
Okay.
And then at his own father's funeral, he's like, and as the Fire Lord wanted, I'll be the new Fire Lord. And because Iroh's so bereft and so...
He's not even paying attention.
He's like, I don't give a shit, dude. Like, it's not important.
Because they actually did have that flashback where it's like, he's like, you want me to betray my first son, Iroh?
And he doesn't want fucking Zuko's dad to be the Fire Lord. He wants Iroh to be the Fire Lord. And so then, like, 2 days later, he's dead. Also, in that same time frame, Zuko's mom basically protects Zuko from being hurt. And she just disappears.
Yeah.
She gets disappeared, probably by the Fire Lord. And we don't know, unless you read the comic later, what happened to her. And all this sums up with, at the very end, these local yokel soldiers come out and start picking a fight with Zuko. And obviously Zuko's been bonding with this kid and everything else.
Yeah.
And Zuko ends up getting in a fight with these soldiers at the end to protect the kid. And he ends up having to use firebending to rid himself of them, to dispatch them or whatever.
Right.
And when he does, everyone in the town is like, get the fuck out. We don't want anything to do with you. Including the family, including the little kid, after they've done all this bonding. So it's this perfect parallel between him having lost his family in the past and then losing access to these people who were kind to him in the now. And the only person that was good to him, in the past was Iroh, and the only person who might be good to him now is Iroh, and he's fucked off away from Iroh, right? So,
which is crazy how quickly they all turned on him. Like, they went from being like taking him into looking
they had
at
just lost their kid
had just
to
been
a Fire
killed
Nation attack
by Fire Nation.
Still, but like then they go to like looking at him in disgust and like.
Well, at one point after he firebends, they're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Lord Zuko." Blah blah blah. Like, he gives his full title and everything.
Yeah.
And he doesn't deny who he is at all. Like, he's like, I'm the prince of the Fire Nation or whatever. And they're like, you can GTFO. And it's kind of, I guess, the favor that they did him was not, lynching him right then and there. But they didn't want anything to do with him. And at one point, he had given the kid a gift of an Earthbender dagger that had been given to him by Uncle Iroh when Uncle Iroh was fighting the last war. And the kid took the dagger and threw it at him, and he was like, I don't want it, like, blah blah blah. Like, the kid rejected his gift. Like, it's a whole, it was really dramatic. And it was good because it told you all of Zuko's history. And then additionally, it told you a lot more about why he was in turmoil in the present, and it set up the psychological scene for what his future decisions to be made a lot of sense. I think without that episode, him defecting to Aang would not have made a lot of sense.
Now, is this... Has he defected and come back the first time? Because if you recall, he leaves, and him and Katara have this moment where you think he's going to turn then, but then him and Azula team up, attack Aang, and Azula tells their father that he killed Aang, which is not true. because that gets him wrapped around her finger. He's under her control at that point. Is this before that or after when he leaves the second time?
I'm not sure if this is before or after him and Katara have.
Is it in the Book of Earth?
It's in season 2 and it's episode 7.
I think it is before the second when he teams up with Azula to shoot lightning into.
I think it is as well, but don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but
that's fine. I was just curious because it also. It points to that in a good way.
Yeah.
Because he's like, look, I tried to, quote unquote, it's almost like the criminal that's like, look, I tried to go straight. They pulled me back in. Like, I tried to leave the Fire Nation behind, but I am Fire Nation. I don't have a choice in the matter. So I might as well team up with my sister. Mm-hmm. One last chance to get my dad to finally say he loves me.
I'm going to get my honor.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think it's just his dad. It's neat because in this, when you get the flashbacks of their family, like this is the first time you hear him say Azula always lies. Mm-hmm. Because as a kid, she's constantly trying to fuck him over.
Oh, yeah.
And you realize how evil she is. This is the first time.
This is why the mom looks at her as a monster.
Like, this is the first.
She a monster?
Yeah, this is the first time you see that Azula wasn't wired right even as a small child.
Yeah.
Like, up to this point, you're like, she's Fire Nation. Maybe she's racist, whatever. Like you kind of,
wrong.
You're like she's just a run of the mill racist, but no, she's a run of the mill psycho,
she's
and you
as
don't.
fucked as her dad.
Yeah, you just don't know it.
Well, I feel like she drank Dad's Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Whereas Zuko had doubts, and she just chugged it down and was like, "Sure, Dad."
There's also a scene where both of them are presented to their grandfather, the Fire Lord, and like her dad is like. Show him the forms you've been practicing. She goes through these flawless forms. Tell him what you would do if XYZ, and she tells him military strategy. Yeah. And then Zuko stands up and he's like, I want to show him what I've been working on. And he's like a dunce, right?
Yeah.
And you can tell the favoritism that the dad has for her. You can tell that she's like, and it's interesting because she's very open and honest with Zuko in all these flashbacks where she's like, just, look, you just have to be good at what you do. You don't actually have to care what they think. If you want power, this is how you get it. And you can tell that it's not even really that she drank the dad's Kool-Aid, it's that she knew exactly what boxes she needed to tick in order to be in command of what's going on, which is all she cares about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole episode is just, it's brilliantly written, and it's not, it's high drama, but it's not like Tales of Ba Sing Se drama. And it's good fighting, but it's not like one of the war episodes.
Yeah.
Right.
But it is a fulcrum, I feel, to the whole series. I think if you were to remove that one block, most of his character development would just shatter. It just would not. And it's interesting that you can take 23 minutes, and that 23 minutes is so crucial to the character.
Yeah, it's definitely something he needed to experience.
Yeah. And it's something that makes, my favorite thing about the whole show is you have the main bad guy defect to the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't feel weird.
Yeah.
And that is brilliant. Like, that's a level of
They don't
writing.
tell it too quickly.
Yeah.
They draw it out. They don't rush it, because I think when you have a bad guy go good and it feels bad, it's because they were like, we have to do this in 3 episodes.
And you don't have enough time, like the beach episode, you don't have time one-on-one with the bad guy to see them human enough to understand what motivations might make them do the thing either.
Yeah.
So with the beach episode, with this flashback and parallel episode to him being by himself and who he is when he's by himself.
Yeah.
Like, all his choices in this episode were for the benefit of people around him. And there's a scene at the very beginning where he's really, really hungry, and he sees some people who have food, and he's like unsheathing his dagger like he's gonna take it, and then he sees that the lady of this couple is pregnant, and he puts his dagger back because he's like, I'm not gonna kill people for food. That's not.
I'm not
right.
gonna threaten a pregnant lady to get a slice of bread.
Cool. That's not
slice
cool.
of ham.
So it's like when he's alone, he's making all the right decisions.
Yeah.
But he's also still fatefully tied to who and what and where he came from and all the trauma that's occurred in his life and how many psychological and physical scars he has as a result of his childhood.
Yeah.
And you learn how he got burned on his face as well, because the little kid keeps asking throughout. So you get so much time with him inside his own head.
Yeah.
And it's a clever way to do it, because it's not like come gather around the fire, children, and I'll tell you the Zuko story. Like, it's things that are happening that are making him think about his past, which is clever. So
yeah, anytime they have to, like, convey information, Avatar never takes a lazy way to convey that information. Yeah. It's never just like, here's a newspaper article. Oh, Zuko's dad challenged him to a duel to the death and gave him that eye fuck up. Yeah. Oh, neat. And they're never, or if they do, I'm not aware of where they took an easy way out.
Even if they use a vehicle that is a trope to deliver it, they do it so well that it's acceptable. It's sort of like if you're going to bake a really complicated cake, it doesn't have to be perfect because it's complicated. Yeah. But if you're going to bake a really simple cake, you can't have one single thing wrong with it. And so even when they use a trope-like storytelling method to deliver these things, they make the most perfect version of that available. So I think sometimes they do use simple storytelling, in my opinion, but they do it so well that you don't notice. You don't think, oh, I've seen this done this way 400 times. Yeah. Because you've never seen it done this well before. Right. You know, so.
Right. That's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, that one was my favorite. I just thought it was just great writing.
Another bad guy centric episode. Mm-hmm. Well, bad guy in quotes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I just thought the writing in that one was so phenomenal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think by the end of season 1, they've got their writing down, they've got their characters down. Big time. Like all of our episodes were from season 2 and 3. Mm-hmm. And that is, dear listener, not to say season 1 is bad. It's just season 2. They've got everything. All the wheels are greased perfectly.
Well, like season 1,
it is a perfectly rolling machine by season 2.
Season 1 was definitely like far more lighthearted, and then eventually started getting deeper in that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
not saying
it's hard to have a show that's, especially a show that's for young adults, that the first 3 or 4 episodes are not going to be a little world building, a little silly, like a little like. I don't know. That's a difficult task.
Yeah.
But Avatar, even in those early episodes, you saw little hints of the brilliance, and I do not mind saying brilliance, that the show would become later on. Like, season 1 is the worst season, but it is still a very, very good season of a show.
I think that season 1 is a lot of world building, for one thing, and also it's so. One thing that I appreciate about the world building is it takes a really simple, like the world itself, and I'm speaking directly to the world, right? Okay. It takes a really simple concept, and then it slowly makes that concept more complicated by adding people to it. Mm-hmm. So the concept is, hey guys, what if we have 4 countries?
Yeah.
Each one a different of the classic 4 elements. All right? Okay, and then we have magic users, and here's how they work.
Yeah.
They can only use magic in one way from each of these 4 countries. Like, that's a really simple, easy to think of. Like, it's a super simplistic concept. And then they're like, okay, but then we're going to have one guy who can use all the stuff. Okay, still super simple.
He'll be the chosen one. Yeah. Oh, that's a thing we've done 100 times before. Yeah.
But then they make it complex by... just add people. It's like the salt on the meat of this very simple and it's a really neat way to get to that complex we give a shit story that we're looking for.
That was another thing I really liked about Avatar was its like use of like magic, because it was like you're mixing magic with like martial arts because you need like it's the whole system of how it works, but I always thought that was really cool.
The artist and the writers did a lot of research into like different fighting styles, like especially capoeira, which is like dance fighting,
right?
To combine it with like almost every fighting styles has these like fighting rotation stances that you go to. They're called katas in karate.
Yeah, forms or katas.
Yeah, and. Like, they used a lot of those for, like, the training. And they even tried to use different ones for different types of building. Like, the earth building is almost like a sumo style. Yeah. Like, you notice Toph does, like, the sumo stance before bending a lot
Which
of times.
I was going to say, actually, you can tell a lot in the bending. Like, with the earth stuff, it's, like, very sturdy, very with like
the
water
airbending is like light and breezy.
And water bending is very
it's
flowy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And fire's very aggressive.
Very aggressive. Yeah. It's like a Thai kickboxing.
Except for Uncle Iroh's firebending,
because it is incorporated in all four styles. Yeah.
I was gonna say that it's really neat how he is that exception.
Yeah.
Kind of that appreciation of.
Yeah, the amount of work they put in also to the fight choreography is just, I loved it. Like every time, it never got boring to me when like there was going to be some bending. Yeah. Like even if it's just some soldier versus like Katara, I was like, oh, we're going to see some shit now, because they always found a different way to like do the water bending, a different way to do the air bending, so that it surprised you and impressed you. Yeah. Like. In the episode with Combustion Man, like Aang puts himself into a wall, and you can only see his eyes, and then he busts out in this like rock suit of armor to fight Combustion Man. I'm like,
and like even like little things like when Iroh got kidnapped by the Earth Kingdom people, like he like blew steam out of his nose into his chains and like held the guy's hand there to like so he could escape. Yeah, like I just liked different forms of how they did it.
There was no. I don't want to say there was no wasted motion.
No,
it sounds like a bad metaphor. But yeah, like every action seemed like they had love behind it. Mm-hmm. Like every frame that was thought out well. Like
they connected the writing and the animation to the world building
so well.
Like they were all on board with that. There wasn't. It didn't feel like anybody was dialing it in or phoning it in, rather, for any of the stuff. You felt like the people that were drawing it, writing it, and producing it, I assume, were all knew the rules of the world really well.
It's like even going off those, like even like subtle little things, because like remember when they first came to the Earth Kingdom, and that's when they bumped into Jet. Yeah, and Iroh was complaining about like, oh, this tea's cold. And then you see the next scene, he's got hot tea, and Jet notices this. Yeah. It's like, you wouldn't know, like, because you saw the steam coming off of it. Yeah. Like, I liked little subtle stuff like that.
Yeah, and I also, speaking to Jet and many other characters, like Mai and Ty Lee, I loved seeing how people who couldn't bend adapted to fight benders. Yeah. Like, Jet had his hook swords, and, like, Mai became, like, a dagger-throwing master. Yeah. Ty Lee learned how to control chakras and, like, cut off your bending or paralyze you. Like, it... And like, fucking even Sokka, like, had a meteor sword and a badass boomerang by the end of it. Like, I liked seeing the people who couldn't bend adapting to exist in this world and battle. Like, how do you fight a wizard if you're not a fucking wizard?
I was going to say, it's like...
You got to compensate somehow. Yeah.
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 So, that was really neat.
Yeah, that was I feel like that's a good hour and a half of, an hour and 27 minutes, because I don't know what that first 3 minutes was of gushing about Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Or maybe we could just say that was a good podcast, so that way we can cut out 45 minutes of this nonsense.
But I won't, because I love that shit.
Oh,
that was really good.
You're the only one.
If you want to do the sound editing, that position is always open to be taken.
Nah, dude. I'm too lazy.
Much like Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, take this cup from my lips.
Wow, I don't think it's anything like Jesus in Gethsemane.
I'm basically Jesus. I think we can all agree.
I know.
Reno, Jesus, they're really similes.
Reno, Jesus Christ.
Synonyms. Yeah.
Superstar. Who are you? What do you think you are?
I don't know that Disney movie.
It's not a Disney movie. That one's not a Disney
Welcome
movie.
To the joke, Alex.
No, I need to explain this so it's funnier. See, that wasn't a Disney movie. And when
Keep
you
talking.
said I don't recognize the
Hit me
Disney
with it.
movie, right? And then I said it's not a Disney movie, that's because I was explaining it to you. And now I'm explaining how I was explaining it to you. And that's where the hilarity begins. Now.
Wow.
So next month, we'll have another episode of Top 3 Anything. Your guess is as good as ours what it'll be about. But
it'll probably be about Joe Rogan's podcast.
It'll be about top 3 reasons Joe Rogan's podcast is better than this one.
I've never listened to it. That's probably one of the reasons.
Do your homework. Yeah, do your homework. It's great. You learn so much.
No thanks.
That's the right answer.
That's the right answer.
I'm good. I've seen his picture. I don't want to listen to that guy.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, that's all it takes for me.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Until next time.
We love you.
We got a Twitch channel. We got other podcasts. We got a lot of shit. Look in the show notes. Stop asking me about it.
Nobody's asking.
I don't fucking want to hear any more about this shit.
Don't ask. Don't
People are stopping me on the streets and asking, how can I help this podcast? And I tell them, write a 5-star review, but they don't listen. I'm sick of them stopping me on the streets.
I don't think...
Running out of time for you.
On the streets.
Hey, Levi.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
You kill me